Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing a few different Harry Potter fan theories. However, what sets these particular theories apart is their truly dark nature. These aren't happy fan theories, these are the result of deep diving into the darker side of the lore. Harry Potter can be innocent and childlike, but that certainly doesn't mean that it's devoid or exempt from the darker side of life. With that said, let's dive into ranking my top 5 darkest Harry Potter fan theories. They're all pretty dark, but one has got to be darkest. Number 1. Voldemort possessed a fetus. This theory is certainly a crude one, and it essentially states that Voldemort's baby, or rudimentary form, that we see Pettigrew carrying around is the result of fetus possession. Let me explain. First of all, J.K. Rowling has been quoted as saying that the rough draft of the Goblet of Fire made her editor sick to her stomach. If this is the case, then this rather gruesome theory is likely the cause. It starts with Bertha Jorkins, who was a witch and Ministry of Magic employee. She was a few years ahead of James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew when she attended Hogwarts. In 1994, Bertha Jorkins made the unfortunate decision to take a trip to Albania. As we know, Voldemort and Pettigrew were in Albania at this exact same time. Pettigrew, a former peer of Jorkins, convinced her to take a stroll with him into the woods. It was here that Voldemort, who was hiding in Albania at the time, tortured and murdered Bertha. As we know, in order to create a Horcrux, murder is necessary, so in killing Bertha, Voldemort was able to turn his snake Nagini into a Horcrux. This is where the dark and twisted theory comes into play. The theory is that when Pettigrew killed Bertha, she was actually pregnant, and that Pettigrew took the fetus from her corpse. And it was this same fetus that Voldemort possessed, and Pettigrew dumped into the cauldron to produce the regeneration potion. This of course means that the body that we see Pettigrew carrying around is nothing more than a possessed fetus and the unborn child of Bertha Jorkins. Possession is one of the darkest forms of magic, and we know that Voldemort has mastered it, so it might just be a possibility. 2. Harry's grandparents. James and Lily Potter were murdered by Voldemort at the very young age of 21. So if James and Lily were only 21, it should be very safe to assume that some of Harry's grandparents would still be alive. J.K. Rowling has stated, and we've seen, that witches and wizards can live for a very long time, much longer than a normal human. So it always seems unusual that Harry wouldn't have a single grandparent. After all, he should have 4. This theory, however, discusses Harry's lineage on his mum's side. The books have stated that both of Lily's parents died normal Muggle deaths, without going into any detail. We know that they both died sometime between 1971 and 1981, because in 1971 they saw Lily off to Hogwarts at platform 9 and 3/4, and in 1981 Lily was murdered. We know them to be dead at this point. It's unusual that they would have died in this time frame, and I'm really not sure what constitutes a normal Muggle death. They weren't even old. What's a normal death? Cancer? Heart attack? It's really hard to say. Provided that all of the information we have on their deaths groups them together, and that they were so young, I suspect some foul play. Lily and James Potter were both very outgoing witches and wizards, joining the Order of the Phoenix and actively participating in the fight against evil. This meant that they were very much on the radar of the Death Eaters. In the Harry Potter films, we've seen many instances of Death Eaters tyrannizing Muggle London and attacking Muggles, so why would Lily's parents be an exception? The theory is that because Lily was so prominent in the fight against evil, having defied Voldemort 3 times, she made her family a target. Because her parents were both Muggles, they would have had no means of defending themselves, and the Death Eaters could have visited them and ended their lives instantly. In a deleted scene from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Harry approaches Petunia and says the following in reference to the Death Eaters. "They'll torture you. If they think for a moment that you know where I'm going, they'll stop at nothing." To which he responds, "You think I don't know what they're capable of?" To me, this implies that Petunia knows more about the wizarding world than previously implied. She's initially painted as a little bit ignorant towards everything going on, but really, I think that she knows exactly what's happening, because she's experienced it before with not only Lily, but her parents as well. 3. Ginny's love potion. Ginny and Harry, 2 peas in a pod, a truly beautiful couple, right? Well, wait until you hear this theory. The theory, put quite succinctly, is this: Ginny Weasley gave Harry Potter a love potion. The theory also suggests that Harry and Ginny only end up together for that reason, and for that reason alone. There are a few reasonably credible arguments for why this could in fact be the case, most of which I have rebuttals to, but for those you'll have to watch my full video on this theory in the description. One of the main bases for the theory is that Harry seemingly fell for Ginny quite suddenly. Up until the point at which they fell in love, they weren't particularly close, nor were there any direct indicators that they would or should end up together. One moment, Harry is with Cho Chang. In another moment, film Harry is flirting with a waitress at Sweet's Cafe, and the next minute, he's married to Ginny with babies. So how could Harry have become so quickly infatuated with Ginny? The answer: a love potion. The main supporting argument for this theory is that love potions have been historically used by the Weasley clan, maybe not for this purpose, but used in jest and in other, less serious circumstances. The bottom line is that love potions have been used by them, and they certainly know how to make them. Ginny's own mother Molly admitted to using them in her youth, and Fred and George sold them, so their perspective on these types of potions can hardly be too severe. The love potion in question is called Amortentia, a powerful love potion that causes extreme infatuation or obsession from the drinker, not quite as romantic as we initially thought. 4. Dumbledore lets Sirius rot in Azkaban. As we know, Sirius Black is imprisoned in Azkaban after he's framed for Peter Pettigrew's crimes. Sirius ended up spending 12 years in the Island Fortress before escaping, but one question that fans have always asked is, why was he kept there for so long? Why wasn't he bailed out? Why didn't Dumbledore bail him out? The theory here is that Dumbledore didn't want to. Dumbledore is portrayed in the books and films as being a skilled legilimens, which means that he's essentially able to read people's minds. He was also the chief warlock of the Wizengamot, which gave him access to Azkaban inmates. So my question is, couldn't he have easily just gone to Azkaban and found out the truth? Dumbledore's word was enough to have Snape's name cleared, so surely, if he had found out the truth, he could have done something for Sirius. Didn't he owe that to him? I think that the potential morbid reality of this situation is that Dumbledore knew that Sirius was innocent all along, but allowed him to be imprisoned in Azkaban because he felt that his imprisonment would be better for the wizarding world as a whole. Here's why. Sirius Black was Harry's godfather, and, being so close to the Potters, would have likely taken young Harry under his wing after the death of his parents. If he were given a trial, I think that it's highly likely that Sirius would have claimed guardianship over Harry. I also think that it's particularly interesting that Sirius never got a trial at all, particularly as other Death Eaters did. It seems almost too convenient that he never got a chance to speak his case, as though one of his allies had persuaded the Ministry that he was sure of Black's guilt, Dumbledore. But Dumbledore never wanted Sirius to rot in Azkaban for no reason. He had a purpose, and this purpose came down to baby Harry and what Harry would need to achieve over the course of his lifetime. If Sirius had taken guardianship of Harry, he would have never lived with the Dursleys, and though they were awful to Harry, it may have actually kept him alive. Because Aunt Petunia was Harry's blood relative, it was believed that Lily's act of sacrificial protection would continue on and be transmitted through Petunia, keeping Harry safe. Though Harry would have been happier with Sirius, he could never have been as safe. Dumbledore didn't dislike Sirius, it was just that, in his eyes, his imprisonment was essential to secure the fate of the wizarding world. 5. Harry's imagination. Brace yourself, because this one has been floating around the internet for a long time and is a bit heartbreaking. I am of course talking about the theory that Hogwarts, witches, wizards, magic, wands and broomsticks are purely a figment of Harry's imagination. This theory is based around the idea that Harry, a downtrodden young boy, had to imagine and create his own reality, a world that he could escape to when his own world became too much to handle. If we go by this theory, the only real aspects of the Harry Potter universe are that Harry lives with the Dursleys and that Harry's parents are in fact dead. However, if the magical world never actually existed, then it would of course mean that Harry's parents weren't killed by the powerful Lord Voldemort. They really did just die in a car crash, as the Dursleys always told him. One thing is for certain, in both realities, the Dursleys are awful to Harry, and according to the theory, It's their nature that pushes him to the point of creating his own imaginary world. In the Harry Potter books and films, Harry is only left with the Dursleys because by staying with them, it meant that he was safe from Voldemort, the result of Lily's loving sacrifice. The only logical explanation for Harry staying with them in this other circumstance is that Harry simply didn't have other family. He had nowhere else to go. Orphaned by a horrible car crash that claimed the lives of both of his parents, Harry was forced to go and live with Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon. Oh, and we can't forget the awful Dudley. The Dursleys were truly awful to Harry, and I have no doubt in my mind that their behaviour could push a young man who had already lost his parents to the point of, well, insanity, to the point of creating his own reality. The following passage from the book confirms that A. Harry had no other family, and that B. He dreamed and dreamed of his life changing for the better. When he had been younger, Harry had dreamed and dreamed of some unknown relation coming to take him away, but it had never happened. The Dursleys were his only family. Now that's a dark theory, if you ask me. What do you guys think of these theories? What are your top 5 darkest Harry Potter fan theories? Comment down below. Until next time, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live